Well, joining us now, Assistant Speaker of the House Democratic Congresswoman Katherine Clark of Massachusetts. And I guess my question to you, Katherine, would be how do Democrats plan to proceed, especially with this select committee, and have an appearance of credibility and bipartisanship? Or is now this select committee exposed to looking too partisan?
Well, good morning, Mika. And what we saw yesterday with the Speaker's action was putting integrity back into the process. This has always been about one thing: the truth. Let's follow the facts wherever they lead us. And that has been our commitment as Democrats to the American people. Let's go back and look at the beginning of this commission. We had the grieving mother of Officer Sicknick coming and pleading with Republicans to set up an independent commission where they could appoint members, equal numbers, take it out of the political realm into an independent 9/11 style commission. Those calls, those cries fell on deaf ears. That was voted down after months of negotiation with the ranking member, a Republican, John Katko of New York. It was just tossed aside by Republicans. Kevin McCarthy does not want to look at the truth of this. There is a party of facts, that's the Democrats, and there is a party of falsehoods, that's the Republicans.
So I get that. I think the biggest problem here is the same problem we're seeing with COVID, and that is, you can scream the truth from the mountaintops, but it's not stemming the tide of disinformation about COVID or January 6th. And I understand why you wouldn't want a member in the select committee that might be a witness. That could be problematic. But isn't there an argument for bringing in some of these members who may not see it the same way, and that is being kind, so that there is an opportunity to hold them accountable and to really pour through and battle about the truth of this day in real time so that the American people can see this debate?
What we have to do is keep pursuing the truth, because that's what matters. Walking over here today through the Capitol, I was thinking about that day. I can still hear the roar of that angry mob. I can still smell the smoke in the air and the violence that took place. Turning this sacred place of democracy into a crime scene, and the long-term implications of that for our democracy, that's what's at stake. And what the Speaker did yesterday was not say we're not going to put anyone on who voted in support of the big lie and against the Electoral College, but there were two individuals who are conspiracy theorists who, through their own words, have never admitted that Joe Biden is the president, who continue to undermine the very work of that select committee. This work is too important to allow it to turn into a political circus. So we are going to continue to hire professional staff to put the facts before the American people. And it is those facts and the truth that will get us back to a strong, robust democracy. It is truly all on the line for us. And we cannot be a party to saying, it's going to be a political mess and a chance to try and score points against the other side. The Republicans are saying out loud what they usually say quietly. They see their role as to obstruct everything, obstruct finding the truth, obstruct our elections, obstruct the right to vote, obstruct getting vaccines to people, to reopening our schools and small businesses. The Democrats are going to show up every single day and fight for the American people, fight for our economy, move us forward in this moment of racial reckoning and climate justice. That's what we do every single day here. That's what we're going to continue to do to deliver for the American people.
Congresswoman Clark, it's Jonathan Mir. I want to shift gears slightly. Yesterday, of course, in the Senate, a procedural vote over the bipartisan infrastructure deal failed, but there is optimism on both sides that some sort of agreement could be struck, perhaps as early as the beginning of next week. So much focus is on the Senate with its 50-50 gridlock, with the vice president having to break ties. But the margins of the House are also very, very thin. Could you give us an assessment as to where things stand there on infrastructure, both this hard infrastructure deal, the bipartisan agreement, but also the far bigger, like reconciliation deal that we Democrats only? Are these things going to pass?
They are going to pass because that is what the American people sent us here to do. They said to us in 2020, we want action. We want to be at the center of the priorities again. That's why Democrats won the White House, the House, and the Senate. It is not going to be easy. Our margins are slim, but what we have in abundance is a commitment to getting this done, to making sure that we are creating good jobs, good paying green jobs, that we are looking after those who look after our loved ones, our mothers and fathers, our children. All of the things that make an economy not only roaring, but inclusive. And that is exactly the work that we are doing every day. So I can tell you, when it comes to the House Democrats, we are not only working diligently, we are excited about the opportunities that are before us with the jobs plan and the families plan. How process through what parliamentary procedure we go forward with this, that's going to be determined in the next weeks and months. But I can tell you that to a member, we are excited about this opportunity to not only build back better, but build back more inclusive.
All right, Assistant Speaker Katherine Clark, thank you so much for being on the show this morning. And still ahead on Morning Joe, former President Trump keeps teasing a possible 2024 presidential run. But would he keep Mike Pence on his ticket? What the former president is saying about that in the new book, I Alone Can Fix It. Plus, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg will be our guest. You're watching Morning Joe. We'll be right back.